Hello. Hello. Welcome to episode 9 of Sensitive Artist Sunday. Another week over and a new one just begun. If you're joining me live, thank you for being here. If you're watching it later, thank you for watching. If you can, take a second to subscribe to the channel, like the video, blah, 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 blah. You know the rules. That would be very helpful. This is episode 9. And it is the last episode of what I'm calling season 1, I guess. Because I'm going on vacation next week. Vacation / a mini book tour. I'll be in Kenosha Book Festival on the 29th, and then I will be at Convergence in Minnesota between July 3rd and 6th. So I'm really looking forward to that. You'll also notice I'm at yet another new configuration here in my office. This is the end of it, though. My office ends right here. And that's because I am currently working on new swag, which is incredibly appropriate given where we are in the world. This is brand new for Convergence. Little chibi shiny dumpster fires. So I'm definitely stealing maybe this one, maybe a different one for myself. They're absolutely adorable. And again, extremely appropriate. Wow. What a week. Am I right? Last week I was talking about the No Kings protests that had happened. And now it appears we are engaging in a firefight in the Middle East. So, this show, I mean, I know it's not super I know a lot of people, they talk about artists, sports people, whatever, stay in your lane, don't get political. I say screw that. That's kind of what this series was for, if and when it's appropriate. And as time goes on, more and more appropriate to be talking about this stuff, and as it filters into creative life and just emotional life. So we're going to talk about it. Again, my political views are not a secret. And since, right now no one's really joining me live, which is fine, I can talk about whatever I want. And you can feel free to stop watching at any point. But it is, I'm not just going to go off on political rants now or ever. This is all about life, a creative life. And yeah, part of life is politics, but it is, this show is meant to talk about how that all filters into and affects creative life and vice versa. So yeah, what's been happening the last few days has been incredibly upsetting, concerning, disheartening, all of the above. The only thing I would say to me, and maybe to some of you out there, is the one thing it hasn't been is surprising. I am not surprised that this is where we are. I would have hoped it would have taken more than 6 months, not even, to get there. But here we are. And, I'm looking at all of the people being understandably upset, some people being amazingly shocked that this is what's happening. And to them, I say, welcome to the fucking shit party. Glad to have you. Better late than never. Get drunk. The rest of us are. I'm not really. And not everybody is. Don't, if you're sober, please don't let this break your sobriety. As always, it's not worth it. But what this had me thinking about is I'm looking through, having talks and seeing reactions to what's happening. Kind of this whole thing. The one thing that I, come back to naturally is, how all of this started, which was obviously electing who was elected. I can't say, I know we technically elected him, but it's hard for me to say that. And, I look back and I'm thinking about the people that either didn't vote or voted in a way that they thought would make a statement against what was happening with this sort of geopolitical problem back last year around this time, trying to make a statement against the current administration, even though the guy who was in charge wasn't running. Well, he was still running at this point in time, but he was about a month out from dropping. And, the people who voted against what was seen as the current administration, you know, I just sit and I think, you know, why wasn't good enough? You know, looking back, it's just like, yeah, Harris wasn't perfect, but she would have been good enough, and she certainly would have been better and at least more stable and predictable and level-headed than what we have now. And, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that she would have done everything perfectly. I'm not going to sit here and say Joe Biden did everything perfectly. I'm not going to say even agree with some of the things that he did, or some of the things that she said she was going to do, or some of the things that she probably would have ended up doing. But it would have been handled in a way that would not have felt, at least, and certainly to outward appearances, seemed like a sort of, I can't wait to push the button and kill hundreds of people or more. It would have been that as a last resort, as opposed to, my parade didn't go well last week, so I'm going to bomb a country, which maybe that wasn't the thought process A to B, but it's certainly the timeline of what happened. It's, you know, not exactly a flattering look. And, you know, I sit here and I'm thinking about, you know, good enough is never good enough. It wasn't good enough last year when we had, you know, the opportunity to kind of cut off this, what's happening right now, cut this off before it began. Good enough wasn't good enough. And, you know, it was this demand of perfection and this total alignment or I'm out. And I can't help seeing the, you know, sort of overlap with who I am as an artist, and who a lot of writers and a lot of artists, a lot of creative types, and I think a lot of probably more liberally inclined and more progressively fundamental people with progressive ideals and fundamentals tend to have this problem with wanting perfection. Maybe because there's a frustration of like, I know what I'm looking for, I know what I want, and I can't figure out how to get there, and I'm frustrated, and you just kind of get all up in your head, and you get in a tizzy and you just give up. I can tell you, as someone who is a perfectionist and who struggles with perfectionism constantly, if I had let what I know as a flaw, my perfectionist tendencies to run my show, to run my shit, I would never have published a first word. I mean, Dead Mall, is it perfect? No, absolutely not. And looking back, I can see just how not perfect it was. I can see the mistakes that, you know, all the mistakes that I got rid of before I published it. There were still plenty just in the release sort of plan for what it was. There wasn't really much of a plan. You know, I can see those mistakes. I see them in Misadventure. There are less of them, though. And I can see myself improving as I move forward, because I didn't get stuck on this idea that, like, if I'm going to put anything out, it has to be perfect or I'm not going to do it. And I will say that, you know, I haven't figured it all out. I'm, you know, ending Misadventure. I'm starting to work on the drafting and planning of, again, what plans there are for how I write, for my new series, which I'm very excited about, particularly given everything that's happening, which is not the Greek myth retelling, but the Greek myth sequels following the ongoing adventures of Medusa and the Minotaur and their sort of monstrous brethren, and what shenanigans they get up to in the modern day. You know, I'm conceptualizing that. I want to start, you know, I don't want to have too much downtime between projects. I want people to know that something new is coming. Something new is coming. But I want to have, I want a date out there because that's how I work best, is I work to a deadline. Never thought of myself as someone who had to work to a deadline, but apparently I do, at least now. But like, in order to do that, I need a cover to start kind of promoting it, or at least a basic idea of a cover. Or if not a cover, I need a title. And I have been stuck on a title for months now. And I think part of it is because knowing what I do now about sort of expectation and placement and market positioning and things like that for a book like what I'm writing, I know what sort of title and cover it should have. And I can't come up with something that I feel fits perfectly. I've come up with a number of fun titles and a number of fun cover ideas, which may or may not end up going forward. And none of them seem to be perfect because they don't fit exactly what the genre, I think, is. And I know that eventually I'm going to have to just pick one and go with it, go with my best sort of instinct, and just say, this is the title, this is what I'm going with. And I can change it later. I did that with Dead Mall. It used to be MAWL because of Hellmouths. And that was too confusing. People couldn't find it. So I changed it. And it was awkward and it was weird. And, it was one of those things where it's like, you live and you learn. That one feels like it should have been obvious. But, I was a lot younger back then and fine. Made a mistake trying not to make it again. But I might make it again. I might have a slight misstep. I might have to change it. I can do that, though, before I publish it. I can change those names. I can alter, ideas. I can get input from people and see what they think, and adjust. I'm okay not being perfect with that. That's sort of a weird case where it's like you haven't even written a word and you're worried about screwing it up. That's, I think, very special to me and maybe to some of my fellow colleagues who are a little bit later on in their careers. It's very, very common to get bogged down in the drafting of, getting stuck. I think that's what writer's block is letting your perfection overtake your creativity, or overtake your willingness to make mistakes. And first drafting is all about making mistakes. It's all about finding what doesn't work and then moving it in the right direction. So if you let perfection speak during your drafting period, you're going to run into writer's blocks. And then editing, of course, is probably the one time you can kind of let your perfectionist come out if you really want to indulge in like super nitpicky, like having everything perfect and your formatting. Like you can get really, really like granular and narrow down on little things. So there's a time and place for perfectionism. And in the creative space, it's during a very, very narrow window in your editing process of, trying to remove all your adverbs, trying to make sure your logic is, you want to be perfect about your logic in your book. You don't want anything to be confusing or anything to be fully contradictory within the book. This is why you have people read it before you publish it, so they can hopefully catch that stuff. You want your book to be entertaining. You want the characters to be consistent, and you want them to be compelling and sympathetic, or at least, if not sympathetic, at least intriguing enough to carry a book, and someone that your readers want to spend time with. These are the things you should be a perfectionist about, that you should demand your absolute best. But even so, at the end, when you're done, when the formatting's done, when the editing's done, when all of this input comes in and something has to go out the door, you have to accept that enough is ultimately enough. And you have to put it out there. You don't have the option of just not getting involved in the release. And, you know, you have to finally end up doing something. And I think bringing it back to the political side of things, if I may, for just 1 second, I think there's a lot of sort of, I don't know what you'd call an armchair quarterback for a politician, armchair presidents, I guess, armchair senators, who like and I'm one of them, arguably. I mean, definitely I am. I'm not a senator, so I have to be. By default, if I'm going to be critiquing stuff, I guess I have to be an armchair senator or whatever. But we just call that citizens. We just call that an active participant in democracy, is these armchair politicians. But I do think it's really easy for us to sit back and kind of be like, well, if I was in charge, I would do this and this and this, and I would take us out of this area, and I would, sanction this thing, and I would, do all of these things. And I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I do think that there is a strong possibility, likelihood, inevitability that maybe us who are, getting our information from, third sources, and it's sort of, it's redacted and it's limited and it is what they give us. Maybe we don't have all the information and we can't definitively say with full authority what we would do in that position. All we can do is put people who we trust, as in trust their judgment, trust their temperament, trust their compassion, humanity, critical thinking skills, those people, to, find the ones that we maybe don't believe every single thing that they believe, maybe don't like every single thing that they're saying, but the people we believe up to the task. And those are the people that should be put in these positions. What we have right now is an absolute disaster when it comes to that situation. The people in charge are not qualified. They are largely extremely persuadable, manipulatable, and can be easily pandered to, and flattered. And that's not even like just me, saying that. Like that's not my opinion. That's sort of on record as being the case largely. Not only that, but there's a lot of stuff swirling around that I think makes them vulnerable as well to influence beyond the best interest of our country and our armed forces and things like that. As a mom of a son, it's terrifying, the idea of possibly deployments. My son's years away from a draft or anything, but that doesn't mean I can't sympathize. And even if I didn't have a son or didn't have a kid, I could still sympathize with that because I'm a person and I don't need to be experiencing something directly in order to sympathize with it. So, yeah, this is not the last episode that I wanted to really have. I was gonna do like a little. I have a camera here. I was gonna do like a little split screen and do some decorating and stuff, but given everything that's been going on, I just didn't have the chance to set that up. And also, we're ending on episode 9 instead of 10 because I was out of commission a couple weeks ago, and it's not perfect, and that's good enough because I'm here and I did it. And that's fine, you know. And, it's more things about, my own stuff is like, I'm nervous that I didn't put enough, I didn't order enough books for my events. I'm nervous that I won't have enough stuff, that I'll be missing something. The things come, the things happen, and you have to deal with them. And you can only deal with them to the best of your ability, and hopefully you're up for it. And I know I would not be up for being president. I don't want to be in that situation. That's a lot of pressure. And a lot of factors that go into it. But I can do this. So this is what I'm going to keep doing. The things I'm good at, or as good as I can be, which is currently right now, again, this. So if nothing else, these are definitely making me smile. I think they'll do well, given the whole situation in general. And they're just funny looking. I like that. So yeah, thank you for those of you that watched this video, that have watched my other videos. I appreciate you so much. Again, subscribe to the channel. I will be taking at least, I think it's 3 weeks off now from doing these streams. I'm not sure when I'll be back. I'm going to be doing a little bit of, now that I kind of know what I'm looking for with these streams and sort of the subject matter that I want it to be, I will start. I probably won't start up again until I have the time to like get other people on board, people who want to have conversations like this, which, are a little bit, it's not going to be every single writer person I know. It's going to have to be people who are comfortable talking about this stuff on camera, live, on a Sunday morning. So we will see how many people I can come up with, and then I'll put out a season announcement at some point. It might not be until next year now or later. Later in the year, because I've got Miss Adventure releasing on the 19th, August 19th, that is. So just about 2 months from now. And then I've got just a number of speaking engagements, sales events. August to October is really my busy time. And then we're in the holidays. So I'll be doing a lot with family and various groups, my various groups around town. So you might start seeing like planning videos, little promotional things before the end of the year, but I'm guessing I'll probably start up again back in January, and maybe just start right after the new year and just try to get 52 straight weeks in, whether it's with guests or not, with probably a little bit of a summer break and a week off here and there as sort of a reset. So that's where the show's at. Again, thank you for watching. If you found these videos interesting, helpful, not helpful, offensive, upsetting, or if you think there's something else that you would like for me to be doing here, kind of along these lines of this sort of artist, real life combo, frustration venting thing, let me know. My email is author@sgtosh.com. You can also leave comments here, but email is probably faster. So again, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend, and I will see you soon.